If you hadn't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Well, let me explain. Well, number one, it's free. Number two, there are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. Number three, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and so many more. And four, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. And last but not least, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. So stop what you're doing and go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Welcome back to another episode of Evolve America. Are y'all as ready as I am? Well, you might want to get ready because what I have this week is really going to evolve America one conversation at a time.
In this episode, we sit down with Representative Gray and we talk about House Bill 264, which is a yoga bill. And it was a yoga bill where he wants to implement the practice of yoga in public schools. And if you haven't heard about this yoga bill, stay tuned and listen for more. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Representative Gray?
I'm good. I'm sorry I forgot.
No.
My mind, so.
Yeah, it's okay. I totally understand. Like, you're in the middle of session and things get crazy, so I totally get it. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
Good. So I didn't do like an introduction. I did want you to introduce yourself. So
Okay.
We will be discussing the yoga bill, but I would like for you to tell the people who you are and where you're from.
I'm State Representative Jeremy Gray. I represent the 83rd District. That's Lee and Russell County. I'm a hometown kid from Opelika, Alabama. Grew up, a little rough, but through sports and just being able to actually tune into my work and understand that I had a goal that I wanted to reach. I was able to obtain a scholarship to North Carolina State University, football scholarship, where I was a 3-year starter. And I went on to play in the CFL. And after that, I started life after football. So I started a health and wellness business. And then now I have a nonprofit, the Curtis House, a community center. And now I'm the state representative. And so in 2018, I became the state representative of the 83rd District on November the 6th, 2018. And so now I'm in my third year of my first term.
Okay, that is amazing. So what made you want to become a representative?
Well, it's a real funny story. I was in 20 under 40. That's kind of like leadership, Montgomery, or, these leadership things you get in. And so we started kind of doing things. You have to do like a community project. And I hadn't started the Curtis House yet. It was just a vision. And so my class kind of selected my project. And, sometimes when you're in the minority, I'm good at persuading people to do what I want. And so through that experience, the city took me through so much with zoning for the property. I was trying to get it in, institutional, but it was in residential. And I just saw that it was really tough for young people who had great ideas in like older established ran cities with status quo to actually get things done. And so that kind of sparked my mind. It's like, hey, we need young leaders. We need innovative people to think outside of the box. And I decided to run. I mean, and a lot of times when I decided to do something, I think about it a little bit, but I don't think about it so much as I know every detail, right? And so just kind of having that ambition and really it coming from a good place, because it wasn't like I wanted power or I was trying to be somebody.
Right.
I just wanted a voice, right? And I wanted to be a voice for other people, especially like people my age and younger people, and kind of bridge that gap. So that's why I decided to run. It was more like to me, it was like a calling.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Something that you said that stood out to me was when you said that you're like good at persuading people to do what you want. So how did you come up with like this yoga bill? I mean, this wasn't, and it's not an easy, bill.
Yeah.
It's not an easy bill
Yeah.
due to all the pushback, which we'll get into in a second. But how did you decide to go through this, draft this yoga bill?
Yeah, I didn't even know yoga was banned, right? So it wasn't anything that when I was like, yeah, when I get in the office, I'm gonna do such and such. I actually went to high school for a political science class. I'm kind of new to my job, and I'm more of a younger representative. So I went into the high school, talked about being a lawmaker and what I do, and one kid asked, "Well, what do you accredit to, like all the things you've been able to accomplish?" I was like, "Man, I'm just." So I said sports because it makes me oriented with scheduling, and I get up early. And I was like, I do yoga. It was like, yoga. And then it kind of came up that essentially it was banned at the school. The teachers were about to start a class at this high school. And so from there, that's where I was kind of like, oh, well, if you all can't do yoga and I do yoga, then, it was a calling for me to actually bring the bill. Right. I just didn't know when I brought the bill that what I was fighting. I didn't know that I was trying to erase like a 28-year, 29-year ban. I just thought like, okay, it was 1993. It's 2019.
Right.
Surely people are not the same.
Surely.
So I didn't.
Right.
So yeah, so I wasn't even really thinking like, okay, I was gonna get opposition. I said, man, everybody do this. I said, Tom Brady, LeBron James, Alabama football players. Everybody. So I didn't even. I think I was a little naive because I didn't really think that I would get this much media attention for a yoga bill, and I didn't think it would be this big. I thought it would just be something that I corrected, basically.
Yeah.
But lo and behold, 2019, when I brought that bill and it got out of the Education Policy Committee, and it never made it to the floor, like it never made it to the House floor.
Yeah.
And then at the end of session, they said, nominees for the Shroud Award, and I was runner-up.
You got the Shroud Award?
I was runner-up. I didn't get it.
What?
But I was runner-up.
Oh, my gosh.
And they did this whole little spiel of Jeremy Gray from North Carolina State. He played football, but he was nothing for the legislature. Like they made a whole big... You know how it is.
Yeah, I know how it is, yeah.
It was very much like a locker room jokey joke. They kind of made a mockery of the bill.
Wow.
And so they didn't know that I play sports, right? And so I don't take, losing or defeat well. So I took the whole year to actually educate and build a coalition. And so in 2020, I was able to get the bill passed out of the House. Like 83 to 17, but then COVID hit and it never made it to the Senate. And so now in 2021, we're here, third year, made it through the House. We got it through Senate on that was Wednesday, and now we're looking to get it on the Senate floor.
That is amazing.
It's been a journey.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey, and like from So from that, from the beginning into now, like what have you learned? I heard that you brought up the coalition, you took it back and really started like I'm assuming a grassroots coalition.
Yeah, grassroots.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah,
what that looked like?
One thing that helped me is that media is good, right? Media can be good or bad, right? And so in this case, it was very good for me because it was like something about what Alabama won't do, even yoga, right? That was kind of like the headline of an AL.com article, right? And that kind of got national attention. And it was like, oh, you can't do yoga in Alabama. And all these people would hit me up from like Huntsville, Birmingham, Mobile. I kept all of those emails. And I essentially said, I'm going to bring this bill back. And I want you all to help me. And in 2020, they all, like the whole summer, they were calling their senators, their representatives, and to the point where my colleagues were calling me. And even when they saw me passing, we got to get you to pass that yoga bill next year.
Oh, yeah.
Because we're getting so many calls.
Oh, yeah.
And so we was going to have yoga day last year, I had booked the room 200. We were gonna have yoga day. I was gonna bring kids down from the local schools. I
Oh,
had met
wow.
a lady in I guess like in Montgomery somewhere. She had some kids that were really into yoga, and we were gonna make a whole event around it. I was gonna even invite some of my colleagues to take a yoga class, but it got canceled, so we never were able to do it.
Yeah.
And so, but once I kind of figured that I got the bill passed, I was like, well, I'm gonna call. I got it done. Now there's no need for me to keep beating up on my colleagues.
Yeah.
Like that. So I kind of let off this year, and because I knew I was gonna get a pass in the House, but then the Senate really caused another kind of obstacle that I wasn't really preparing for. Because I was like, man, this article. I said, man, I done been in like New York Times, the Guardian,
Right.
I done been in a German newspaper. I mean, so
Everywhere.
if you were living up under, you could be living up under a rock, and you would have known about the bill, but it almost was like I started over all the way back to 2019 when I got to the Senate.
Yeah.
But it only took 1 week to get it right. So last week it was like, yoga is a religion, and I'm like, darn, they hadn't learned anything.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been
So was that the only pushback though? Like they were saying yoga leads to Hinduism.
Yeah.
Like, what was
that was only pushback that yoga leads to Hinduism. Nothing else.
Nothing else.
I had more pros than their cons. I might have had 20 pros
versus that one con.
One con, but that one con really kind of sparked a lot of minds because it's when someone telling a narrative and they're really good at telling the narrative, you can get spooked even if you think that, oh man, I've done yoga before, it's not that bad. But when someone says, oh, you can become a Hindu and you can do that,
it's
and
just
then
so crazy.
If you start to buy into it, then you start to believe it, and then if your constituents start to call you and email you, it becomes real. And so I was glad that I was there to introduce the bill in committee because I'm pretty good at answering all the questions when it comes to, because I've done yoga for like 10 years. So I actually know the ins and outs of it.
Right.
So I was glad I was there to, if it was anything that came up that I needed to address, then I could do it. But no one really asked any questions. And it passed, with about 5 minutes.
Right.
It passed out of the Senate.
So what do you think? Like, what do you think made them open their minds and realize, okay, maybe yoga isn't bad? And like, what do you think it was?
No, I just had the votes. That's all. I didn't have the vote. I didn't have the votes last week because some of the members left.
Okay.
And this week I had the vote. So,
so I'm saying like at the beginning though, like in 2019, like why do you think you didn't have the votes?
Well, I still had the votes in 2019. So my bill has never actually failed.
Okay.
My bill made it through committee in 2019.
Got it.
But, most people don't understand, like, when a bill goes to committee, it also goes to rules.
Right.
In rules, you have to get somebody to pick your bill, or you have to get on the pick list.
Right.
Where, the chairman of rules, he doesn't have to put your bill on the pick list.
Right.
And so essentially my bill never made the pick list. And essentially
but it wasn't
died.
for like it wasn't for like another reason.
It was just strategy. They just never made it. They just never made it to the floor. Right. That's basically what happened.
Right.
And so that no one really has never been voted down per se, even though in committee it did die because a 4-4 vote is the bill died. But they reconsidered the bill and they carried it over to the next week. And so I think this is one of the issues is that, like, people don't want to vote on it most of the time. I think that's what it was at first.
Right.
They didn't really want to vote on it because it makes you kind of look silly if you vote against yoga. Everybody's doing it. We have yoga in prison. So,
right. Everybody's doing it. So. And like, especially like in the middle of a pandemic, I feel like when kids do return back to school, like they're going to need something to recover from during this pandemic and like something to calm their minds and calm their spirits,
Oh, definitely. Especially in the pandemic, we talk about virtual learning and not
Yes.
having interaction with other children.
Mm-hmm.
So many teachers and principals and educators in general reached out to me about the bill
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes people think just because it passed the House that it passed, it has to pass the Senate and the governor has to sign it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a lot of calls about them wanting to incorporate it into their virtual learning because
That's
kids were
amazing.
having anxiety. They were having, even my niece, like
Yeah.
she was going crazy because she couldn't hang out with her friends.
Yeah.
And so and one thing that yoga helps you to do is be calm in your own space
For sure.
with your breathing and your temperament
Right.
and being okay with being okay, right?
Right.
Sometimes you have to be okay with being okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things that yoga really helps you with when you talk about the mental aspect, but we know it's also an exercise. So it burns, you feel it all, you sweat.
Yeah. You
And
feel it.
so you feel it.
Yeah. I hate the downward dog. That you feel that one. You definitely feel that one. For sure.
If you
I
hold
do
it down with
yoga.
dog
I
long
know.
enough,
Yeah. I do yoga, so I know. Trust me. Oh yeah. So what do you plan to see? Like what are you planning once this bill passed? I'm gonna just speak it in, it's passed. So like what are you planning to implement? What are you hoping to see? What are you like what's just your vision?
Well, people, to be honest,
Mm-hmm.
many schools are already doing yoga. They call it mindfulness, mindfulness movement, meditation, all those things. This bill was simply to make it legal
Mm-hmm.
where schools can partner with local universities or teachers that have that 2 hour certification training. They're able to incorporate breathing exercise or yoga into their classroom. So this is not anything that would have to be like mandated with money or any of that. It's already happening.
Right.
It just allows you to do it in a legal way.
Right. Okay. Well, is there?
But eventually, though, I mean, if I had like my biggest, wildest dream,
Mm-hmm.
that we would actually fund yoga and we would do a pilot program. I mean, because essentially, if you want to know if something works, you want to have like data, right? You
gotta have the data. Yeah.
You want to be able to show that kids that suffer from ADHD or disciplinary problems or anxiety or whatever it may be,
Right.
that this really works and helps. And so I actually pitched yoga to one of my peers in Ohio, who's a state legislator, and she was actually got money to go in her school district for a pilot program. And because yoga is not banned in any other state besides Alabama,
Alabama.
so she was able to go to like her speaker at her house and say that I want money to go towards my district for yoga in schools, and she was able to do that.
Wow.
So that would be like a big dream.
Yeah.
But I'm good with the bill passing.
Well, speaking of like that bill passing, what other bills have you brought towards the legislature this session?
So I passed the first bill that I passed through the House and the Senate, and the governor signed this year was my electric bike bill.
I saw that.
And so that bill just allows for electric bikes to be codified language on regulation, basically. Okay. And so electric bikes were more paired towards motorcycles, so they want you to get like a license and all, a tag and all these things. And this language just makes it like a ordinary bike. Right. And so that passed. And what that does is it pulls those businesses into Alabama because we don't have like strict regulations around bikes.
Right.
So that was one. I have two water bills that will, I guess you would say, mandate or require that if a school is building a new school or doing renovations, that they will put in water stations that actually are connected to filtered water, so not like tap water. Yeah. And so this is more of a health crisis type of thing. Right. So when you think about schools that are in low income areas and them not being able to have from an environmental standpoint of view, they're not have the adequate and water or just nutrition. This was kind of a bill that was brought by, I'm bringing it, but it was the American Heart Association that asked me to carry it. I had an expungement bill, but it was like 4 different versions of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I carried my bill over. My expungement bill was geared more towards Pennsylvania and Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And what it really did was, instead of going through like pardon and parole to get an expungement, after you serve your time, it was like, I guess you had to be like 10 years removed and you paid all your restitution, that you could basically like fill out a form
Mm-hmm.
and you would become expunged. You wouldn't have to pay a fee. You wouldn't have to do all the things that you have to do now that makes it really hard.
Right.
It would just kind of it would like clean, like wipe the slate clean. So it's a clean slate bill. And then what other bill did I have? I can't remember. I got one more bill. It's an innovation bill, and then what it does is it's HB 609, and it's a matching fund. So it's STTR, and that's a federal matching fund that the state will match for corporations. And so this is a way to attract high-level businesses into Alabama, or like a way that people who are already here can take advantage of a incentive program.
Okay.
So that's pretty much, I think, all I have so far. I might have a couple of other bills, but I can't think about them right now.
You can't think about it right now.
Off the top of my mind. I can't.
I think you said enough. That is perfectly fine. Are there any more, is there a bill that you want to get out before session ends? Well, wait, first, when does session
all
look
of
like
them.
Every last one on?
Yeah, all of my bills.
So
session, it's tricky. Session, it just depends. I haven't been here long enough to just tell you when session ends, but usually when we pass the Education Trust Fund and the General Fund, they call Sunny Die. So like the last time I was here in 2019, when we had a full session, when both budgets passed, the Senate called Sunny Die and they left. And so that basically means that the session is over with,
right?
And then really no more business is conducted. So I would just say probably they say maybe May.
Okay. How many? What calendar day are y'all on?
I don't know that because we had a 3-day week. Maybe if I had to guess, probably like 18.
Okay, so
18, 19, something like that.
Okay, yeah. So
we usually do about in the chat May 17th.
Yeah, but we don't. Yeah. Well, I was thinking
we don't know
the 30 day. The 30 day.
It's 30 days. It's 30 days, 30 sessions within 105 days.
Right.
But we've been having 3-day work weeks. So like this week. We did Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But on a regular week, we would do Tuesday, Thursday. Wednesday would be committee
days, yeah.
But it doesn't count as a session.
Right.
It's a committee day.
Right. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on and having this discussion about the yoga bill and the other bills that you're bringing. Is there anything else you want to say before we kind of head out?
No, man. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of your platform, your podcast. I enjoyed it. You're a great host.
And so thank you.
If you invite me back again, I'll come back.
You'll come back. Okay, well, you have fun at session because I'm sure y'all still there. Ain't no y'all. Yeah, didn't y'all go in at 4 today?
Well, yeah, I'm still here, but we have our caucus have interns and fellows. Mm-hmm. And they're going through a training tomorrow because they hadn't been able to come to the State House because of COVID.
Yeah.
And so they've been virtual. And we're going to actually, the staff, I'm not really doing anything, but I'm over the internship. I'm over the internship and fellows program.
Yeah.
So I have to be there.
Right.
But they're going to feed them and they're going to go through a training. And I'm just going to be there.
You're not going through the training, you said.
No. I'm just there. I'm just like Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here.
You just here. I know that's right, for real. You have a great day tomorrow. Have a great rest of your evening, and thank you so much for joining Evolve America.
Okay, thank you for having me.
All right, bye everybody.
All right.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode. This is the episode with Representative Gray, where we talked about his yoga bill and other bills that he is passing through the legislature this session. And I hope you guys really enjoyed it. So tune in next week for Evolve America, where we evolve America one conversation at a time.
right, y'all. I hope you enjoyed that episode because I said my piece. But until next time, let's continue to evolve America one conversation at a time.